You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, the Supreme Court just agreed to hear a case that conservatives could use to end the Voting Rights Act as we know it. The Ninth Circuit struck down 2 Arizona voting restrictions. It ruled that both laws had a disproportionate impact on racial minorities and that one was motivated by racist intent, all in violation of the Voting Rights Act. Joining me to break it down is Barbara Arnwine, president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, explain how this is targeting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and how this could be the final nail. Some are describing it as the final nail in the VRA.
Well, you know, everybody knows or should know that in 2013, the Supreme Court in the Shelby versus Holder case did significant damage to Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act by basically holding that section 4B that designated which states had engaged in past acts of racial discrimination and therefore should be subjected to harder scrutiny whenever they wanted to pass a new law, a new voting rights law, or a new voting procedure, that they had to be, quote, pre-cleared and approved in advance by a federal court, the designated federal court, or by the Department of Justice. Well, they said that wasn't no longer necessary because there wasn't proof that there was present-day discrimination that warranted those states being treated differently than any other states. Well, that then meant that Section 5, for all practical purposes, has been out. So people haven't been able to challenge discriminatory actions and events. We always said, okay, at least we have Section 2. Section 2 is the liability standard for any state or jurisdiction that engages in racial discrimination in voting. And we've always said that that would at least allow us post the act to challenge it or to get an injunction when we saw that the act was going to have a huge impact, negative impact on voters. So we've been using Section 2. All these cases that people are seeing around the country where people are challenging discrimination in voting has been based on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and of course, various clauses of the Constitution, and federal or state constitutions, wherever we can use them. But what we're seeing now is a direct frontal attack on Section 2, where they're trying to limit Section 2 to only redistricting cases, which means that all these vote denial cases, such as is raised in the case of Arizona Republican Party versus Democratic National Committee, which is the case in chief that we're talking about here, this would in fact mean that all these practices, such as eliminating election day registration if you think it's going to benefit blacks, or getting rid of getting rid of early voting, all of these kinds of things that have been done to hurt African American voters, to hurt Latino voters, would no longer, under this theory, be challengeable under Section 2. So what's at stake here in this case were 2 issues that people are familiar with. One is what they call correct precinct voting, meaning you got to know, Roland, your correct precinct. And if you're at the wrong precinct and you vote, even if you vote a provisional ballot, it will not be counted, period. And be very clear, we dealt with this in other states. They don't tell voters when they come in to vote that you're at the wrong precinct. They won't tell you where the correct precinct is. And they don't tell you that when you vote that provisional ballot that they're going to throw it away. So, when we look at the 1.9 million tossed ballots in 2016. When I say tossed, I mean they were discarded and not counted as part of that election that was decided by 80,000 votes. When people look at that, you got to understand that's because of vote spoilage, and out of precinct ballots accounts for thousands and tens of thousands of those tossed ballots. The other thing is that in this case, the issue of ballot harvesting came up. And ballot harvesting is where you are able to, let's say, if you're like me and you got people in your household who don't go outside because they say they are too susceptible to COVID, and they get their vote by mail ballot, and they want somebody to come by and pick it up and take it to the voting place for them, or they're in a residence hall, or let's say where there are several people in assisted living who need their ballots taken, then some of these states don't allow it, period. And other states, limit you to like 3 when there could be 10, 20 people in need. Other states like Maryland allows you to take as many as necessary, as long as people want you to. So there's all these restrictions. In this case, what the issue that the court is going to decide is whether or not only does it apply, the Section 2 apply to vote denial cases versus just redistricting cases, but they're going to look at whether or not the state has the right to use these kind of practices and have these laws when they know the people who are going to be hurt by them are Black people and brown people.
Rob,
and that's who are going to suffer the most.
Rob, Supreme Court Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice, he's actually been trying to do away with the Voting Rights Act. If you read that Shelby decision, that's the deal. Republicans have been targeting this. This is also why all these people out here, this is why Democrats need to get control of the United States Senate, because if they do, they can actually pass a law. See, when people don't understand Supreme Court rules on the existing law, they can then pass a law that, first of all, strengthens the vote, addresses the issue in Shelby v. Holder, strengthens the VRA, and get rid of the 25-year sunset provision that was put in place by the Southern Dixiecrats, those white supremacists, and then say, no limit. It's the law, period.
Well, it's the
hold on, Barbara, hold on. Rob, go ahead.
No, I mean, and they sure can. And we talked about this before. What has to happen, we're assuming that Biden wins and they take over the Senate. There has to be, they can't be business as usual. They have to get rid of the filibuster, and they have to make these moves that you're talking about and really be bold. Absolutely, they should do that. They should do it unequivocally. Second, they need a real strategy when it comes to judges. The right, they start off, they make sure everybody in law school, I know this, they go to the Federalist Society, they start recruiting you in law school to make sure that they know what your ideology is going to be. So they know who they want to pick, not only for the Supreme Court, but all the district court, the Court of Appeals. Those actually hear more cases. I mean, Republicans have played the long game, and they understand, because there's actually more power and more legacy in the court. We know as Black people, we've had our rights reversed more from the courts than we have from anything else. So we need to make sure, as really the most functional part of the Democratic Party, that when we talk about judges, the conversation just can't be about Roe v. Wade. It also has to be about voter rights. It also has to be about the Fourth Amendment. It has to be about Black lives. But those things have to be in the equation when we talk about judges, and we need to start being strategic and recruit in the long term as well.
But Julian, the reason Republicans have been so strategic and focused on the long game when it comes to judges is because of things like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act, because they have not liked what those laws have actually produced, which is why I'm saying I get the whole deal with the strategy with judges. What I'm saying is short term. Right now, Joni Ernst is down 12 points in Iowa. Democrats are leading in Arizona, leading in Colorado, leading in Maine. They're leading in North Carolina. They're leading in Iowa. That's 5 seats. They only need 4 seats to take control. You pick up those 5 seats. You pick up, you get a miracle with Mike Espy in Mississippi if y'all put money in the race. If you also pick up the seat in North Carolina, that's 7 seats. What I'm saying is, the Democrats should be saying, Chuck Schumer should be saying, we get control of the Senate. In the first 60 days, we are going to completely strengthen the Voting Rights Act.
Absolutely, Roland. The fact that if we look at the history of our people and our rights and the courts, Fair Housing Act, et cetera, good stuff. But we go back. Look at Plessy. Look at the ways that the courts have been manipulated with law. So we do have to have a long game and a short game. The short game is as soon as Biden is elected, he should do just like the Republicans do and have a list, a long list and a short list. Who are these people? Start vetting them now. I mean, they know who some of the people are, but we don't know who they all are. When 45 won, he already had a list. The Federalist Society gave him a list. There were some 30 or 40 names on it. So who on the progressive/left side is doing the same thing? I mean, I know Barbara Arnwine has a list. I'm sure of it. But you know, they get us with future planning every time. But the
right.
Reagan Revolution worked. It took a long time, but it worked. You look back to 1980 and look at now. Many of the deregulation, freer markets, all that stuff worked. So we have to think about a long game also, because we're not only talking about our rights today, but we're talking about the future of our children and our grandchildren's rights moving forward.
Quentin, what I want these people to understand, all of these people who yell out here, say, leave the top of the ticket blank because Biden is the same as Trump. Let me remind people, in 2016, Quentin, 90,000 people in Detroit left the top position blank. Donald Trump won Michigan by 11,000 votes. 70,000 of the 90 were African American. What people don't understand is what I'm talking about here is that if Biden-Harris wins, Democrats take control of the Senate. If you then fix the VRA, for all y'all folk who say, I'm going to focus on local issues and not national, the Voting Rights Act impacts local races. It impacts all elections. And so when you say, I don't care about Biden, Trump, I don't care about the U.S. Senate race or the congressional races, I'm going to focus on DAs, judges, mayors, and state representatives, state senators. What you're also realizing is that if you lose pre-clearance, Section 4, if you lose Section 2, then you do not have a way to combat these Republican-led states, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, and on. So, folks, stop acting like what happens nationally don't impact you locally, Quentin.
And see, this is a conversation that I actually have all the time with my followers on my social media, and just really in general. But it starts in education, right? A lot of people don't know about the judges. A lot of people don't know that Donald Trump did the second most judges of any president in history. A lot of people don't know that Mitch McConnell had planned this all along and wrote a whole book about it. I mean, it starts there, right? And then the thing about it is when people think like, oh, Joe Biden is a racist, and then they think, oh, Donald Trump is a racist, so I'm just not voting. What does that help, right? But people really need to understand that these policies matter in your everyday life. But we have to make sure that people know.
Well, and that's precisely why I launched this show, because we could not depend upon mainstream media to do so. Final comment, 30 seconds. Barbara Arnwine, go.
Yes. Listen, today we're doing these John Lewis Good Trouble voter awareness marches all over the country, and we're taking people to the polls because we're about voting. And we just did that in Chicago yesterday. We did it in Richmond today, and we're going to do it in Philly on the 10th, and we're coming to D.C. on the 12th. We're just doing these marches, 25 of them all over the country where Black people are, including Milwaukee, etc. But I just want people to know that when you vote for judges. Because this is the kind of stuff, this fiction that somehow everything's race neutral, this fiction that they have voter fraud to work with, and that this is, the more important than the truth, that there is no voter fraud. I mean, all of these things are at stake in this case, and this court. So when you're watching the fight over the Supreme Court right now, and you're looking at, the candidate, and you're saying to yourself, well, that doesn't involve me. Yes, it does.
Got it.
Everything about it involves you.
Barbara Arnwine, Transformative Justice Coalition. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks at Seek.com, of course, they black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They have a couple of great products that you can actually get. This is their VR headset. This headset, folks, allows for you to actually take your cell phone, pop it right into here, close it up, and then you can actually watch the VR content, the virtual reality content on Seek.com right there through your phone. Actually, it's pretty cool. You can also look at 360-degree video from other websites as well, and it puts you literally right there where the video was shot. And so they have this particular headset right here. They also have their 360-degree 4D headphones. And so these headphones right here, which are Bluetooth. Also, they have the headset, which you use for when you, if you're for all you gamers out there. And then, of course, it has this amazing sound, really, which actually covers around. Typically, you just have the headphones just right here, but this actually has a sound that goes all around your head. I love these headphones. Love listening to music with them and watching videos as well. And so, all you got to do, folks, is go to Seek.com, Seek.com. Use the promo code RMVIP2020. That's RMVIP2020 to actually try these out. And so that's what we want you to do. All right, folks. So again, go to Seek.com.